Hi class, my name is Peter Parasiliti and I will be presenting on my topic here, my problem of practice, my quote-unquote dissertation, hopefully my future dissertation. The title being How Effective Are Online Certifications at Developing Skills and Confidence Levels in Fitness Professionals? Okay, to start with, I'm sure many of you know, but the fitness industry has been pretty much managed by the private education sector. So certifications, etc., right? Our primary certifications to be a personal trainer or a group fitness instructor, you typically have to get an NCCA accredited certification. You have to be 18 years old, have graduated high school, or at least have a GED, hold a CPR and AED certification with live skills, and then pass one of these certifications with a 70% or better. And there are zero practical application standards that are required in order for you to become a person. Let's just use personal trainer because that's primarily who I'm looking at, but personal trainers in general don't have any practical requirements. Then there's this secondary certification or this secondary fitness certification market. And a lot of the companies over the years, when they decided to use the NCCA or the Institute of Credentialing Excellence, which is a quasi-public government agency that oversees a lot of different certifications and validates and credits and makes sure that the content is similar across a series of domains. When they moved into that direction in the 2000s, this opened up this specialized market, where we could do certifications that got into deeper things. Like I'm using the examples here: Olympic weightlifting, movement screening, corrective exercise, special populations like senior fitness, pregnancy, cancer, etc., and then equipment. So we see, kettlebell certification, suspension training, and kettlebell certifications have been around for some time, actually, prior to the NCCA kind of, or the fitness industry using the NCCA as the accreditation vehicle. But generally, those are all unregulated. So all the secondaries, all of the fitness equipment kind of certifications, the TRX, it's all unregulated. The only one that has standards in domains of knowledge is going to be the primary group fitness certifications, the primary personal training certifications, if they go and get NCCA accreditation. There's other organizations that don't even use NCCA. So it's the wild, wild west, as many of you know. So those secondary certs often are, open note exams. There's no proctoring. There's no real substantial evaluation of like, hey, did you learn something? And if you learn something, can you apply it after you complete the course? So we have this other component now, right? It's the private sector. So the private sector is always going to look to monetize their education, right? And so we see that the private industry, or the secondary certifications they started moving into online delivery of these certifications prior to COVID. But then COVID-19 exploded all of the certification agencies to stay viable. We're like, let's create an online version. So we saw almost all of the certification agencies go to online content, which, in a practical world has some, fundamental inherent challenges that we actually haven't ever investigated. So there's really no public research. There is no public research. Not there really isn't. There isn't. There's zero on the perception of skill and confidence acquisition from online fitness certification education. Yet the entire industry has sort of moved in this direction. There's limited research investigating the effectiveness of online learning in academic kinesiology, but because of COVID-19, we got a little bit more because so much of our coursework was shuttered, right? Shuttered into either hybrid, safe distance models if we were doing lab, or even just asynchronous. And there's a bunch of actually qualitative research suggesting that kin faculty and students prefer face-to-face learning over the asynchronous online only. So with that preliminary evidence suggesting it's less effective based on that qualitative research, and really no quantitative research investigating it, fitness professionals earning unregulated online certs might be putting the public at risk. So this is the big conundrum. Do they know what they say they know? And are they qualified? thus evaluating the perception of confidence and knowledge and acquisition and fitness certifications I deem as being essential and incredibly important. So the methods, the interesting thing about my methodology, for those of you that haven't maybe read any of my other stuff to this point, was I do have a working relationship with functional movement systems, and they're the ones that do the functional movement screen, level 1, level 2. They do actually just launched a wellness certification. They have the Y balance test certification, breathing certifications, and they have a more of a once you hit FMS, you're able to do more there's a performance certification as well. So FMS has been around since the early 2000s. Officially, they started actually doing investigative work into their movement screen in 98, 99. They shared with me that anecdotally that people that take their online FMS only, so asynchronous, never actually going to a workshop and practicing the FMS with an instructor that can help you make corrections and make, tweak or fix any errors that you're making, that they actually take more test attempts, because you get 3 test attempts to pass the FMS level 1 with an 80%. It's open note, it's open book. They take more test attempts than the folks who go to the face-to-face certification workshops. That was told to me by one of my colleagues who worked there at the time. I thought that was interesting because I was actually working on creating an internal education program for Optum Workplace Wellbeing, which is a corporate wellness company formerly known as Plus One. I was developing a fitness education, internal fitness education, to kind of homogenize or really synthesize how we approached it regardless of what site we were at, and we wanted to leverage FMS. So we've got participants who become FMS certified, and that's who I'm going to be looking at within the last 30 days. They could have either participated in the online certification course, the face-to-face live course, or they could have actually done both. And what do I mean by that? When you buy a workshop, so the live workshop, I'm going to an FMS here, I'm in Los Angeles, so last year it was in Los Angeles. I could have bought a certification to go to that, or attendance to go to that certification workshop, and I also got the online content. The online content is all videos and a test, and that's it. So if you actually get the live workshop, you're also getting the online certification, the async certification that just the online purchasers are getting. So depending on how, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, but depending on how the person responds in my survey, they may have actually inadvertently been using hybrid. They did the live to live, and they also are using the online videos to help fill in any gaps in their knowledge acquisition about the functional movement screen. And that's what I sort of explained there in the bottom there. All right, so the instruments are going to be the data set, which will be determined with FMS, but test results. You get 3 chances to pass their test with an 80% or better. So if you take 3 attempts, I'm going to look at the total number of attempts that people take on average based on the delivery, whether it was face-to-face, online asynchronous only, or the hybrid version. We'll be looking at the passing test score. So when they pass the test, from 30 days, I'm going to get them out a survey, and that's the third bullet point is we're going to send them a post-FMS certification acquisition survey. And I'll be using 2 open-ended questions, identifying their occupation. I'm really trying to look just at personal trainers at this point, and or people who are doing personal training as a primary job. And then a 5-point Likert scale assessing perception of skill and confidence acquisition in delivering the functional movement screen. And that'll be essentially, I think it's 6 questions. I should have put it in here, but I didn't. But 6 questions. And the idea is that Likert scale. So it's like mostly agree, somewhat agree, neutral, less I don't agree, or I absolutely don't agree, or less likely to agree, or absolutely don't agree. So that scaling system that forces each participant to actually put in a metric on their perception of knowledge. I did not put in any questions here per se, but it is what it is. All right, so the procedure, and I'm sorry my head is cutting off this little piece here. So I'm gonna look at the database of FMS results, and I'm gonna total the number of tests that were attempted, and we'll collect that. And I don't officially know. I've never looked at FMS's data, although they have told me that I am welcome to investigate it. I haven't looked at it, so I don't know how I'll be able to, you know, categorize it. So that's kind of an unknown that I can't quantify at this point. I'll certainly find that out prior. Assuming this is dissertation, prior to dissertation, I'll actually have obviously very in-depth conversations with FMS, making sure that I have a good working understanding of how I can look at their data set. So we'll look at when they pass. We'll give them 30 days. Immediately, we're going to send out, hopefully immediately, we're going to send out a survey questionnaire to do their self-identity of what's their job, and then rating their confidence in their ability to effectively deliver a functional movement screen. And those are those five-point Likert scale assessing their perception and skill confidence. So it's really about them telling me what they feel their confidence level is in a variety. Can you deliver it as effectively as like Lee Burton and Gray Cook? Or as effectively as how confident are you effective in your ability to deliver a high quality functional movement screen rating on a scale of 1 to 5? Those are the types of questions that I'm going to be using. So design and analysis, and look, I'm going to be very transparent here. This was really difficult for me because we have not gotten into statistics obviously as a course. I was a little confused, and I'm working with Dr. Buns, hopefully to run a few tests. He said he would offer to run a few tests with me to get an idea of how this might look. But essentially, we're looking at repeated ANOVA or factorial ANOVA, with the ANOVA looking at like changing over time and or comparing the results to the type of the results of their FMS test to the type of education that they have. So I've got 3 levels of education: hybrid, async, and face-to-face. And I've got test results, which are going to be basically how many attempts it took them to pass the test, 0 to 3. Now, there are some outliers that I have to, again, I'm going to have to work with FMS on this, because there are times when they'll give people a 4th attempt if they ask. So that could be, I'm just thinking through this now as I'm kind of talking it out. So glad this presentation's here. But there may be some outliers. In fact, when I was working for Optum, we got a person a 5th attempt, and they still didn't pass. So, I'll have to, I'm very, very curious to start to look at the data set and to see how I'm going to have to, what kind of statistical information or a statistical model I'm going to have to run in order to make this thing even seem like, if it works, right? The 3 dependent variables, I think I've just mentioned this already, are going to be the personal trainer's self-perception of skill and confidence, and in the delivery of an effective functional movement screen. So how skilled do you feel you are? How confident are you? And how effective do you think your delivery of a functional movement screen would be at this point after having gone through your independent variable of the method of learning? All right, practical applications. So I'm pretty sure everyone can kind of off the top of your head rip through these, right? Like our industry, the fitness industry, has not been regulated. There is no online certification acquisition data set out there that's ever looked at this. In fact, what private company would open up their books, so to speak, their data set books, to even tell the academic world, hey, our delivery system isn't as effective as what we thought it was, right? That could potentially have a significant impact on the entire business models. Do we do face-to-face? Do we do hybrid? Or do we get rid of asynchronous altogether? And remember, it's really important to talk about asynchronous, because asynchronous has a finite cost, meaning I record the asynchronous content once, and once it's up, I never have to re-record it unless there's some updates, right, of things of that nature. But I can pay for that content very quickly, and then the rest of the consumption of these certifications asynchronously becomes complete profit. So it may not be in the best interest of the private sector, who's profit driven, to find out about this information, but for us on the other side of it, who are paying for it, we need to, right? We need to know if I'm a company that's investing in a certification for my staff to get, I want to know that my investment is going to be, valuable. Is there going to be a return on my investment for my staff? If we discover that it doesn't matter, asynchronous is equally as good as face-to-face or hybrid, then it doesn't matter. Then life goes on status quo. No harm, no foul. We move along. And that's fine too. However, I don't know. I think there's something to this. I think we can all agree. So generally the contribution to knowledge and profession, right? Again, this area has never been evaluated. The effectiveness of the private sector delivering fitness education. And I'm not to pick on ACE, but I'm going to use ACE as an example, the American Council on Exercise. They currently offer all of their education asynchronously, and they're like, oh, we have this great platform where you can get online, and I'm teaching a senior fitness course right now, and we're using their senior fitness certification as kind of our quote unquote textbook, and we do get a textbook out of it, but they have all of their delivery stuff online, and videos online. So there are 4 primary certifications. Their certified personal trainer, the GFI, their health coach, and their medical exercise specialist are all delivered asynchronously online. Now, technically, you could read the textbook as well, and just kind of go ahead and pass. But with the secondary certifications, that's not the case, because the secondary certifications typically will have testing around the practical video application. And in the case of the functional movement screen, you're getting tested on what you're seeing in videos and whether or not you can score it properly. So there is some practical interpretation in their testing and secondary certifications that may not be the case in the primary, which conceivably you could take a textbook and just study the primary. So the ACE offers 16 secondary certifications, what they call their specialist programs, and then they have a whole bunch of online Con Ed courses, 222. So we're talking, their whole business model is 242 courses for fitness professionals to buy and consume, all delivered asynchronously. And that's the big question. They're just one of 23 different NCCA accredited personal training or fitness certification agencies who all have their own. And then there's a whole world of unaccredited certification industries that have their own set of certifications that they're offering asynchronously as well. So Wild Wild West, we have no idea if it's effective. And I think that's really the exciting part of this, is that we start to get to look at this for the first time. All right, limitations. Look, I'm only using FMS, and that's because I've been told they'll give me access to their data set. So it'll only really look at FMS. There's going to be a survey, and there's some assumption in the responses that what people are writing down in a survey is actually what they feel and think. And we can't really work around that other than making sure that our questions are very, very specific and as detailed as possible. We're focusing just on personal trainers. So, there could be other professionals who go through, there will be other professionals, and I know this anecdotally, physical therapists, ATs, athletic trainers, chiros, strength conditioning coaches, they're going to all have different levels of education than maybe a traditional personal trainer who maybe they don't even have a bachelor's degree in kin. Maybe they just decided, I'm going to go do this on my own. I graduated high school and I want to be a trainer. But so that level of education, maybe that makes a difference in their ability to test using the different models. So that's something that there's a limitation there. To point out any methodological problems that occurred or could occur in the research. That's what I'm doing. Sorry, I left that bullet point in there. And then accessing FMS data because of a professional relationship. So I wanted to make sure to be very clear. I don't have a dog in this fight. There's no conflict of interest. FMS has been very receptive to research. And because I've had a working relationship with them, we instruct their coursework at the college that I work at. When I was working, as I said, with Optum Workplace Wellbeing, we embedded that into one of our core certifications that we paid for our faculty, our fitness specialist faculties our fitness specialist employees to get certified in level 1 and level 2. And so I just have a working relationship with Dr. Burton, and they've been very kind and generous in saying, yeah, we're totally open to being evaluated. And they've been very open to evaluating the FMS. You'll see if you ever do any research inquiry into FMS, there's a ton of research out there about the effective nature in a variety of ways looking at the FMS. And so they're open to that. They're in fact, Dr. Burton used to be a professor in Virginia. So he and Lee's a physical therapist. So they're just both open to, or sorry, Gray's a physical therapist. So they're just obviously open to academic inquiry, which makes it great. But I do not have a dog in the fight either way. And other recommendations for further research, looking at other fitness certifications beyond obviously movement screening, right? There's going to be tons of other things, FRC, DNS. I'm trying to rip the ones off the top of my head that I know that are outliers. TRX, functional training, right? All any kind of certification that's like part of like a TRX certification. Kettlebell certifications, any of them and all of them, group fitness stuff, BOSU training, like all of this stuff can be evaluated. And then really, I think another kind of space that I think we should probably explore at some point, regardless of, how this turns out, is evaluating the practical side of it. So can we quantitatively assess someone's ability post online or post face-to-face education consumption in their ability to effectively deliver an FMS based on the criteria that are laid out in the actual FMS manual. And then finally, I think the big picture for me is really working in academia and also being affiliated with the private space for so many years, 15 plus years, in a variety of roles, is looking, look, the kinesiology is in the private space doesn't really, yes, you have a degree, but many of them are going to say, hey, we got to put you through our own education because we don't know if you learned enough in your undergrad, which is sad. I have a colleague at Cal State Northridge who said, I don't even know what the value of a kinesiology degree is, a bachelor's degree anymore, because it doesn't get you anything. The only thing that I know it gets you is when I was working for Optum Workplace Wellbeing. If you wanted to be a site lead overseeing an account, you had to have your bachelor's degree. That was it. But you can work as a personal trainer without any kind of degree. So it's an interesting conversation about looking at the effectiveness of the private sector's delivery of education versus the effectiveness of the academic sector, and how can we maybe work together more synergistically to embed these courses and certifications in our academic coursework. All right, so conclusions. Generally, I just said that the minimum quals to becoming a Fit Pro are really low. You got to pass a proctored examination with a 70% or greater, and you get to train my grandmother, which frightens the heck out of me. Requirements have stagnated for personal trainers, have really actually stagnated, meaning that as athletic trainers and physical therapists have moved up from bachelor's degree to master's degree and from master's degree to doctorate degree, and future of OT is looking like it'll eventually be a doctorate degree. Personal trainers have remained 18 years old, and that's it. And with the GED or high school diploma, CPR AD, and passing that with a 70%, that's CPT. I contend in my personal, this is a whole different sidebar thing, but I contend that the minimum qual should be an associate's degree, which is one of the reasons I'm hoping here in California to have an influence on that at some point, to re-engage with Sacramento to talk about that as the academic requirements have increased for the others, so should the personal training world. But neither here nor there. And no one's really ever looked at the private fitness education sector and how effective it delivers its education. Thus, this research would seem to be an important considering the lack of minimum qualifications, or the minimum PA requirements by the public, right? So 26% of Americans are meeting 150 minutes of moderate physical activity per week, and personal trainers. Right now, we're not even on the hook for that, right? Kinesiology isn't on the hook for that, right? If people don't do their PA, no one gets in trouble, right? So I think there's really some really unique opportunities for us to start to take ownership of this. And I think we've got to do a little bit more investigation into the various education models to see what's going to be the best and most effective moving forward, so that we can actually transform some of the health outcomes in the United States. All right, here are my references. One more page. And I want to thank you all for giving a listen. I hope it's not too long. I hope it's not too late. I know I'm a little bit late here, but better late than never.